It was a cold day in late February 1692. The winter was harsh, clinging to the small, isolated community of Salem Village. But, a different kind of chill was about to descend. Inside the packed meeting house, a scene of unimaginable horror was unfolding. A woman named Sarah Good, a beggar known for her sharp tongue and unsettling muttering, stood before the magistrates. She was accused of witchcraft. The accusers, a group of young girls including Ann Putnam Jr. and Abigail Williams, were in the throes of torment. They writhed on the floor, they screamed in agony. They claimed that Good's spectral form was pinching them, biting them, and trying to force them to sign the devil's book. The air was thick with terror and confusion. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life. Imagine the scene. The wooden beams of the meeting house seemed to press down on the crowd. Every eye was fixed on Sarah Good. She was a destitute woman, often forced to beg for food and shelter. She had a reputation for being unpleasant. But was she a witch? The magistrates demanded a confession. John Hathorne, Jonathan Corwin. They barked questions at her, their voices echoing in the tense silence. To understand the madness, you have to understand the place. Salem in 1692 was not one unified town. It was two separate communities, the bustling, prosperous port of Salem town, the poorer, more agrarian Salem Village. The village where the crisis began was a place filled with tension. Neighbors argued constantly over land boundaries. Families feuded for generations. The village had been trying for years to establish its own church separate from Salem town, a source of bitter internal division. Life was hard, and tempers were short. Life for these Puritan settlers was a constant, grueling struggle for survival. They lived in small, dark houses with dirt floors huddled together against the brutal New England winters. The threat of death was ever present. Disease could wipe out a family in weeks. A bad harvest could mean starvation. Beyond the edge of their cleared fields lay the vast, dark wilderness which they saw as the devil's domain. At the center of this storm were the afflicted girls. 9-year-old Elizabeth Betty Parris, 11-year-old Abigail Williams, 12-year-old Ann Putnam Jr., from a powerful family. These girls were the catalysts. Their dramatic and disturbing behaviors, fits, screams, contortions. These behaviors drove the entire process. The first accused were women on the fringes of society. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar. Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman estranged from the church and in an estate dispute. Tituba, the Parris family's enslaved servant, likely from South America or the Caribbean. They were outsiders with little standing. They had no defenders. They became perfect scapegoats. Under intense pressure, Tituba made a stunning confession. She spoke of flying on a stick. She described a tall man from Boston in a black coat. She said she signed the devil's book. She named other witches plotting against the Puritans. Her confession was explosive. It turned suspicion into certainty. Accusations soon reached respected community members. Rebecca Nurse, a pious 71-year-old grandmother. Her accusation sent shockwaves through the village. If Rebecca Nurse could be a witch, then anyone could. John Proctor, a successful farmer and tavern owner, openly called the fits nonsense. For his defiance, he and his pregnant wife Elizabeth were accused and arrested. Overseeing this were the magistrates and judges who turned gossip and teenage hysteria into a state-sanctioned campaign of execution. It all began in the kitchen of the Reverend Samuel Parris during the bleak winter of 1691 to 1692. His daughter Betty, his niece Abigail. They would hide under furniture, make strange choking sounds, contort their bodies into, unnatural positions. They complained of being pinched and pricked by invisible pins. When the local doctor, William Griggs, could find no physical cause for their ailments, he made a fateful diagnosis. The evil hand was upon them. The fits and torments of the afflicted girls were incredibly theatrical and persuasive. During the public examinations of the accused, the girls would act out the supposed spectral attacks in real time. If an accused woman bit her lip, the girls would scream that she was biting them. If she clenched her hands, they would cry out that their own hands were being crushed. They claimed to see the specter, or spirit, of the accused tormenting them, an invisible assault that only they could witness. The causes of the girls' behavior remain a subject of intense debate among historians. Some theories suggest they were suffering from a physical ailment like ergotism, a condition caused by eating rye bread contaminated with a fungus. Ergot poisoning can cause muscle spasms, vomiting, and hallucinations, symptoms that mirror some of the afflictions. However, this theory doesn't fully explain the selective and strategic nature of the accusations. Other historians believe the girls were caught in a form of mass hysteria, fueled by the oppressive social environment and their own psychological distress. It's also highly probable that after seeing the power and attention their initial afflictions brought them, they began to consciously feign their symptoms, caught in a lie that spiraled out of control. The power dynamic in Salem was turned completely upside down. Suddenly, young, powerless girls held sway over the most respected and feared adults in the colony. The Devil's Dance, whether real, imagined, or performed, had taken hold of Salem, and its rhythm was one of escalating fear, accusation, and death. Once Tituba confessed and named others, the floodgates of paranoia burst open. The initial trickle of accusations became a torrent. Neighbors who had lived side by side for years began to look at each other with suspicion and terror. A lingering glance, a misunderstood comment, a history of minor squabbles could now be reinterpreted as evidence of a demonic pact. The social fabric of Salem Village, already frayed by internal disputes, was torn to shreds. Trust evaporated completely. Anyone could be next. The fear was palpable in the streets, in the fields, and especially within the walls of the meeting house, where every Sunday sermon warned of the devil's insidious presence among them. The legal process itself created a terrifying catch-22 that fueled the hysteria. If an accused person confessed to witchcraft, their life would be spared. A confession was seen as a sign of repentance and a willingness to rejoin the Christian community. More importantly, a confessor could provide the names of other witches, feeding the court's hunger for more arrests. However, if an accused person maintained their innocence, as was the case with Rebecca Nurse and John Proctor, they were almost certainly doomed. In this twisted logic, the only way to survive was to lie and condemn others. This perverse incentive to confess created a chain reaction of accusations. People, desperate to save their own lives, began to name friends, family members, and neighbors. The accusations followed the lines of existing family feuds and social resentments. The trials became a weapon in a long-simmering village war. The community began to devour itself from within, as fear and self-preservation overrode all sense of loyalty, reason, and justice. In the midst of the human tragedy, the Salem witch hunt took a turn into the truly bizarre, demonstrating the depths of the community's paranoia. One of the strangest and least-known facts from the trials, 2 dogs were accused of witchcraft and executed. In October 1692, a girl from the town of Andover claimed she was being afflicted by a dog. The dog in question was owned by John Bradstreet. According to the testimony, the girl's claim, the dog's specter was tormenting her. The belief was that a witch could send their familiar, an animal companion imbued with demonic power, to do their bidding. Responding to this incredible accusation, the authorities took it with the utmost seriousness. The dog was hunted down and shot. This wasn't seen as an act of cruelty or absurdity, it was seen as a necessary strike against the forces of evil. But the madness didn't stop there. Another dog was accused in a separate incident. This second animal was also executed after being implicated in witchcraft by one of the afflicted. The logic, as warped as it seems to us today, was that by killing the animal familiar, they were weakening the power of its witchmaster. The people of 1692 did not have a clear line between the natural and the supernatural. No one and nothing was beyond suspicion. It was a worldview where the impossible was considered not only possible, but probable. By the autumn of 1692, the tide began to turn. The accusations had reached too far, implicating the wives of prominent men, including Governor William Phipps's own wife. Educated elites in Boston began to question spectral evidence. Increase Mather named and quoted, "It was better that 10 suspected witches escape than 1 innocent person be condemned." Governor Phipps intervened, dissolving the court of Oyer and Terminer in October. The hanging stopped. 19 innocent men and women had been hanged on Gallows Hill, several others died in prison. Giles Corey was pressed to death with heavy stones for refusing to enter a plea. The community was left broken, shamed, and haunted by what it had done. Many of the key figures publicly apologized after the trials. Judge Samuel Sewall stood before his congregation in 1697 and accepted blame. In 1706, Ann Putnam Jr. offered a public apology, blaming a delusion of Satan. The colony eventually reversed convictions and offered financial restitution, but the scars on the community, and on the American conscience, remained. Salem became a powerful metaphor for injustice and mass hysteria. The term witch hunt is now a common phrase for campaigns of persecution. We see echoes in the Red Scare of the 1950s, when careers and lives were destroyed by flimsy evidence and public paranoia. We see it today in the spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories on social media, where communities can be whipped into a frenzy of accusation. So why should we care about something that happened over 300 years ago? We care because the story of Salem is a timeless human story. Their story forces us to look in the mirror and ask, could it happen again?